And we're back on Filter. Well, actually, we're just getting started. I just like to say the radio cliches like we're back and up next and coming soon and that was. And this is Paul Rice. This is Filter, KPTZ 91.9 FM, Port Townsend. We have a special Valentine's Day weekend presentation because it's a love letter to some classic Jefferson County folks, stars, legends, as I was just discussing with my producer, Ruby Fitch, total Jeffco legends that really have had star power out here since the 80s. So first, we're going to talk to Ray Jackson, a.k.a. the Heavy Metal Warrior, a.k.a. AK-47, Hadlock's Most Wanted, King of the Black and White Pork Rinds. Whatever that means. Watch him with this $20 switchblade. Can't wait to talk to Ray in a few minutes. We'll be getting him on the phone, and it is going to be a wild ride. Just a little bit about Ray. You know, he calls himself the whatever persona you're doing, Ray, in the moment is special. Handicap rapper. The Lord of Metal, the Heavy Metal Warrior, maybe not a Lord. I don't know if you call yourself a Lord. You can tell me when I get you on the line in a bit. But really looking forward to talking to him. And then in the second hour, we'll talk to Len Enders, who is sort of Ray's de facto manager, but a legend in his own right. Len has been I don't know, during the 80s and 90s, if there was a really great show happening, if there was a big musical expression, artistic expression, chances are Len Enders was involved. And he also managed to videotape most of that from the 80s on, so he has an amazing archive of material that just traces his life, and it's mostly... well, not mostly because he still uploads stuff all the time, available on his YouTube channel. You just go YouTube for Len Enders. You'll find it there, and he'll tell us all about that in a little bit, and we'll just kind of tell some stories. And Ray also, I think, has some announcements to make maybe in terms of what he's going to be doing this year. He's making big moves. Always making big moves, the Warrior is, but maybe some of the biggest moves ever are happening in 2021. So looking forward to getting underway with that conversation real soon. I just wanted to do a little promo. The next ICG community conversation on KPTZ will feature U.S. Congressman Derek Kilmer. So tune in to KPTZ at 5 p.m. on Thursday, February 18th, for the live broadcast where Congressman Kilmer will address the need for federal funding for rural areas. For more information, visit jeffcotogether.net. And stay tuned. Then join us on Thursday, February 18th at 5 p.m. for the live broadcast right here on 91.9 FM KPTZ Port Townsend. So definitely check that out. This is KPTZ. We're getting ready to rock with the one and only Heavy Metal Warrior, AK-47, Ray Jackson, and I'm going to turn up his mic in a sec, but first, let's get this going.
You smell what the rock is cooking.
Yes, finally, the Warrior has come back to KPTZ. Warrior, are you there?
Yep, I'm still here, Paul.
Awesome. Hey, let's do a mic check. Can you give us a mic check, AK-47?
Yo, check. Yo, 1, 2, check, 1, 2.
Oh, yeah. I hear you. Are you on speakerphone by chance?
Yes, I am. I am on speakerphone yes.
Hey, can you go into regular phone so we can really get all your vocals? Just get them all?
Oh, you bet I most certainly can. Hang on just a sec. Let me get it off here.
All right, here we go.
Okay, there we go.
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
You hear me well now?
Yeah, give me another mic check, Warrior.
Yo, check, 1, 2, 1, 2, check, 1, 2, check, 1, 2.
All right, we got Ray Jackson in the house. Ray, welcome to KPTZ, and so glad to finally have you on Filter.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, thanks, Paul.
Hey, man, no, thank you. And thank you for your years of service to Jefferson County, performing and just making this a fun and funky place to be. I mean, I've only been experiencing your music for about the last decade, but it's, definitely been a really important and wonderful part of living here. So I just want to say thank you for everything that you've done over the years.
Quarter of a century, running strong, still running strong after all these years. Yep.
So can you tell us, for folks who may not know about the Warrior, maybe they moved here during COVID, maybe they just didn't get the chance to go to a show yet. Can you give us a little taste of the history of the Warrior and the sort of evolution of the Warrior into AK and beyond?
But before we go on with that, before I start with that, I want to give a big shout out and lots of cyber hugs to my hero and soul role model in the entertainment business, Cindy Margolis, down in L.A. And I look up to her as a role model for me. She's been a hero for me for a long time now. And, of course, we went to high school together back in the 80s. So, and I also want to give a big shout out to my management, Len Enders, who's coming up in the second hour of this show as well.
Cindy Margolis, if you're listening.
Neil Cerrucci as well.
Neil Cerrucci? Cindy Margolis?
Yeah, Cindy's management.
Oh, gotcha. Cool. Okay, yeah. Well, Cindy Margolis, if you're out there, we're listening. We love you, and Ray loves you, and thank you for listening. Well, that was my air horn just to get her attention.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
So yeah, give us what's the story of the Warrior, man? Like, how did this all begin?
Well, it began in 1985 down in L.A., Southern California. It actually began way back in 85. I was trying to impress a friend of mine who I had mistreated wrongly all those years. Those are my days at the notorious Eric and Joan Erickson Center, the high school that Cindy and I and a few of us went to. And I wanted to make it up to her by coming up with this little persona called the Heavy Metal Warrior. It started out with like an Iron Maiden baseball jersey, CHP-style sunglasses, a Motley Crue World Tour headband, and a pair of Vans off-the-wall sneakers, and really this cool-looking outfit. I was at a graduation party of a friend of mine who had a heavy metal band over, and I was hoping that this friend of ours would have been there, and turned out, lo and behold, she wasn't. So, it kind of stuck for a while, and, never really put into a purpose until I met Len Enders back in the late 80s, early 90s, and he had heard about the legacy of the Warrior, but never really got to meet me, and the rest is history after that.
Yeah, so you and Len combined forces, and by your powers combined was created the legendary SMF, right?
Yeah, exactly. That is right.
And SMF, I can't remember the acronym. Can we say it on the radio?
You really can't say it on the radio, but it's no Twisted Sister for the 1980s to what the fan club used to be called. You get the idea.
Yes. And, I just remember the first time I turned on the SMF record, the first one with the samples, the horror movie samples, and the really excellent musicianship. I mean, who was in the original incarnation of SMF? You were the Heavy Metal Warrior. You were the lead, but who else was on the instruments there?
Oh, with three of the guys in Circle of Fear was Adam Burns on bass, Charlie Burns on lead guitar, and Len Enders on drums.
Gotcha.
Len Enders was frontman for Circle of Fear at that particular time.
Right, and that was Len's band that then you got involved in, and that became SMF, or that was the offshoot?
Yeah, it's kind of an offshoot. This little side project. It was supposed to have been a side project, and it became big. It's kind of like SOD became bigger than Anthrax in a way. And, SOD was supposed to be the little thing, the one-time record formed with a couple of guys in Anthrax, and they got bigger than Anthrax, and that's how that started.
And you guys used to play like the biggest shows out at the fairgrounds, like tons and tons of people.
Oh, yeah. I mean, first show, easily 400 or 500 people in that show. I'll tell you. I just decided to myself when I exited that curtain when I entered that stage, I cut it loose. You got nothing to lose. Just cut it loose. You got all these people watching you and things like that. History is being made right then and there.
How did it feel? Were you nervous when you first went on?
Nah, I just decided to do everything spontaneously. Just let it happen.
So your inspiration for your gear, because I want to talk about the transition into AK a little bit maybe in the second part. But where did your So you were talking about your clothes came out of, you're trying to impress somebody, and you wanted to have this this image. I mean, did your clothing as the Warrior evolve over the year? And maybe give us a little information about the background of the clothes you chose to wear.
Well, it had evolved over the years. Yes, it did evolve over the years. And there were some influences in there. Yes, I mean basically, HMW1. Of course, that was the outfit I first came up with in 1985, wore till '93. In 1994, I picked up an LA Kings replica jersey back when they wore silver and black back in the day, like the Raiders do.
Yeah.
And, of course, I had noticed that half the grunge guys and the hardcore guys were wearing all these, three-quarter cut jam shorts and things like that, the baggy shorts and things like that, like rappers now wear. And I kind of figured that in, a couple of, basketball sneakers and short cuff socks and, kind of look hardcore on stage. Had the bandana going for me and the shades and things like that. It would look sort of like a superhero, but yet look like a god at the same time.
Yeah, that's the heavy metal warrior thing. You're the superhero of is it speed metal? Would you call your music speed metal, or is it more? How would you genre define?
We were trying to replicate SOD in our own way. We were trying to replicate the Stormtroopers of Death in our own way, hardcore thrash metal kind of thing.
Gotcha.
We were trying to replicate SOD only with our own material.
Gotcha. Yeah, and the fans loved it, right? I mean, it was like one of the only all-ages games in town, and you guys would just bring people from all over the county out to the fairgrounds. Did it ever get out of hand?
All over the county, all over the region. I mean, even from Port Angeles, they were coming over here.
Oh, man, so just like Clallam and Jefferson coming down because they knew where the show was at.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Len could draw a buzz with Circle of Fear during that time, and I was glad to be a part of that buzz at that particular time.
Well, what was it like getting in with Len Enders? Like, what was when he first approached you about doing this? I mean, was it just like a snowball falling downhill, or did you kind of have to be convinced that this was a good project?
Well, I was the one who came to him with the project. I mean, he wanted me to go on the show and things like that because he had met me years ago with the old Port Townsend music, things like that. And he knew more about me than I knew about him at that particular time. And, one other weird idea he had, and he knew this because I was a bowler and a very serious bowler at that particular time. I had aspirations of joining the professional tour back when you could have a decent tour life. But, it's like now these days the guys on the pro bowling tour are way too good now. They're just way too good.
Mm.
But, I mean, basically, he had the idea of a death metal bowling team. Basically, a league team at Key City Lanes, our old bowling center, which the same building now is the Food Co-op. A death metal bowling team, basically fans who loved heavy metal and loved to bowl. And we were going to have our own league team at that particular time. And they wanted me to be the team captain and everything, but it never really panned out. But I'm glad I got into music. I really am.
Death metal bowling team. I think we need to bring that back. I mean, bowling isn't really like COVID friendly, I guess, right now. But like, I love that idea.
You could give 6 feet in bowling. I mean, basically the approaches are 16 feet. The foul line of the hit pin is 60 feet long down the lane, and all you have to do is give 6 feet. I mean, it's not difficult at all to give 6 feet while you bowl.
No, you're right, actually. So you could just like skip a lane or, skip 1 or 2 lanes and you could still...
Yeah, I mean, all-star lanes down at Silverdale could very easily open, or all the lanes at Port Angeles could very easily open. You just have it be every other lane rather than every lane.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Well, we should talk in the second half when we talk about your ambitions for this year about bowling alleys and the history in Port Townsend. But I want to help fans and new listeners or new fans of you understand the transition from Heavy Metal Warrior into AK-47. So what happened there that essentially turned you from a heavy metal god into Port Hadlock's most notorious rap artist?
Well, basically, 2002, I came out with the second record. I mean, first of all, in 1997, we came out with the first album, and proud of it, which features Rest in Pieces, as you mentioned, Bates Motel, all the old hits of the old days and things like that. And I came out with the second record, and proud of it, was put out in 97. I came out with the second record called Schizotron. And Well, it drew a lot of fans. I mean, basically the album drew a lot of fans. It's just though we had poor turnout at the two shows we played in 2002 in support of it, and really we tried to keep it going, things like that. But there was we couldn't keep a band together. It became the time where we really couldn't keep a band together if they had got married and had kids and things like that. The obligations are things like that with that. So I was left without a band, and I went down to San Diego to make some more heavy metal Warrior fans and things like that, keep my legacy going, kind of do a little PR for myself. And went down to San Diego visiting Len Enders. I kind of ran into this rap guy, one of his old friends, Dirk Mitchell from Len Enders days with Skeleton Crew back in the late 80s, and he was with a rap project called Peanuts and Chrome. And he had me do some impromptu rap to some of his old tracks, so I knew it was SMF lyrics at a particular time. And I told everybody right then and there that I wanted to come up with a record just for them. And since I had to go solo, I thought to myself, why not? I had this idea in 2000 after listening to Ice Cube and the Family Values Tour doing, rap, some of his old NWA material, come out with AK-47 that I wanted to do back in 2000. And I went right to work on AK-47 as soon as I got home from San Diego in July of 2003. And several months later, we put it out. We did it. Hadlock's Most Wanted was born. And I played a show in San Diego the following year in July of 2004. We sold a bunch of limited edition CDs at the show. I swear to God, we had a backyard concert party kind of thing like that at Derek Mitchell's house. And we dubbed it Concerts from the Hood. We were hoping to have an annual thing every year with that. And turned out not to be. It ran for about 2 years, but the first one, I sold CDs, I signed autographs. I was back.
Yes. And you really brought it. I mean, it's amazing the transition you were able to do and produce these songs that, suddenly you were a rap artist. How many heavy metal frontmen have had a career change midway through where they became a hardcore rapper?
Well, the hardcore rap was thanks to NWA straight out of Compton. Basically the old school. I always consider the old school type of rap to be the best rap.
Yes.
Today's rap just doesn't cut it now these days.
I totally agree. The mumblecore rap, I can't. It's like shubbity bubbity 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 dubbity bubbity bubbity, and it's all sounds the same. It sounds
all auto tune at that too. It's all auto tune. That kind of garbage.
Right. It can sound cool, but it's if it all sounds the same, then are you really innovating? Are you really bringing some new ideas to it?
Yeah, there's the innovators and the imitators. You're right, Paul.
That's right. And you were always an innovator. You would take in influences from around you, your metal influences to create the heavy metal warrior persona, and then, being open to these different ideas. Because do you think you lost any metal fans when you made the transition to AK-47? Were there people that were like, nah, Ray, we can't go with you on this journey?
No, I developed such a big following as the heavy metal warrior that most of them were actually accepting of it. I gained even more fans because I became AK-47. Not only did I have the heavy metal warrior fans backing me up all the way, but also developed a whole new fan base as AK-47.
Yeah, definitely for me, I only got to see SMF perform once because y'all reunited and there was a show and all that stuff had kind of ended. But, it blew me away because I'd only ever known you as a rapper and, just as strong as a metal frontman. It was just amazing to watch and to appreciate your versatility as a performer, which I think is sort of part of what I want to celebrate about you as a legend of Jeffco is your extreme versatility and your ability to make your different interests, because you have interests beyond music, and translate them into something that we can all kind of go along for on your journey.
Yeah, well, I do have my own brand new YouTube channel, the Atari Report. I do have that. And, basically with the pandemic going on, the Atari Report was born on the pandemic. I'd always been an Atari freak ever since I had an Atari 5200 when I got it for my 17th birthday back in 1983. and I picked up a 2600 flashback to go along with it, and later on a real 2600 unit. And I thought to myself, since I'm not going to be playing any live shows at this particular time during the pandemic, I might as well keep myself relevant and reinvent myself in a way. I mean, look at this way. Vanilla Ice, after Rap finished him off, basically he did that home improvement show on DIY. Bill Goldberg had a classic car show that he did on cable. Other artists have done the same thing as well. I mean, look at what The Rock is doing with his own sitcom he's coming up with on NBC pretty soon.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you talk about transitions, and who does transitions better than pro wrestlers, right? Those guys, when they get big, they just know how to market themselves. They know how to work it.
Well, yeah, they have come a long ways. I mean, we are all entertainers. We're all under the entertainment banner. Or whether it be inside the squared circle or on stage or whatever, things like that. I mean, we're the most versatile on the planet, I mean, entertainers are the most versatile people on the planet when it comes to being able to cross over from one endeavor to the next.
Did you ever think about bringing your personas into the squared circle, speaking of which?
The Heavy Metal Warrior was going to be a pro wrestling persona. As a matter of fact, I have the corniest of opening entrance music to come out to. Get this. It would be The Warrior from Scandal featuring Patty Smythe of all things. Can you believe that?
Let me see if I can find it. Oh, yeah. So it would sound something like this. Is that right?
Yep, that's it right there.
Yeah. Warrior! Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, now we have to do it. But, I mean, I don't know if you feel like physically could you get in a squared circle right now and be okay, or would you need to have some training first?
Well, the scope, we're not under the script here, are we?
No.
I mean, basically, you got to follow a script in those things. It's not impromptu like you would think it would be. I mean, giving a promo in the ring, I could do impromptu very easily, but it's the action inside the squared circle, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, I've always, for years, I've been trying to produce a pro wrestling show in Port Townsend, and it failed.
Oh, so. I had the idea of a Headlock Championship Wrestling once. I even carry a WWE title belt and see that photo of me in that wrestling gear with that steel chair.
Well, you know what? When this interview's over after 3 p.m., we should start blowing up Len Ender's phone and just see if we can get him to do all the work for us on creating a pro wrestling circuit in Port Hadlock. What do you think?
Hadlock Championship Wrestling would be perfect.
It's gonna happen.
I mean, you can imagine the fans in the background chanting right out, "HC Dub." HC Dub. HC Dub. It's just like the ECW used to do back in the day, right?
ECW.
He's a 360-pound beer man with his patented finishing move, the six-pack.
Yeah. Whoa. A little feedback there. Hey, Ray, so we're going to take a little musical break. You brought us a couple songs, and I want to play 19. Can you introduce this Paul Hardcastle cut for us and tell us why you love it so much?
Yeah, I mean, it was number one in 13 different countries. Can you believe it? Throughout Europe, believe it or not. And Paul Hardcastle wrote it about the average age of soldiers who served in Vietnam.
And that's, yeah.
And I got into it a while ago. Basically, I discovered Paul Hardcastle through his smooth jazz work as Jazz Masters and also for the Hardcastle label. And in a way, it kind of led down to me discovering his 1980s electro-funk material and stuff like Rainforest, 19, Fooling Yourself, a couple of other things like that, yeah.
Well, let's give it a listen, and then we're going to come back and talk to Ray Jackson, the Heavy Metal Warrior, AK-47, Jeffco legend, about the future of Port Townsend and Jefferson County. So here's 19 from Paul Hardcastle, and let's get ready to rock some more with Warrior in the second half of our hour. But that won't protect you from the tsunami of information that you're about to download from the Heavy Metal Warrior, Ray Jackson, who's back in the studios with us live from the phone. Unfortunately, no in-studio interviews are really happening yet, but they will be happening again soon, and by gum, we'll be sure to have you back then, Ray. Are you still there?
Sure will.
Good, yeah, man.
I'm here.
I gotta say, I love that track so much, and I love it so much I just pulled my headphones jack out. Like, I never heard that. I'd never even really heard of Paul Hardcastle, and I listened to it earlier today, and I was just like, man, this is like my new favorite track. I could listen to that for 24 hours straight, locked in a booth with no food and water, and still be really happy.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing. 1985 was a big hit. 13 different countries, number one. 6 million sold. I mean, it was a big hit for Paul back then, and it put him on the map here in the States as well. And, of course, you now know him for smooth jazz material with not only his Hardcastle project, but also with Jazz Masters and a few other things he's done over the years.
Yeah, it's a great song. I really love it, and I thank you for bringing it to me. And for all that you do for Jefferson County, for the arts. I know it's a really hard time for artists. And you felt that. I mean, how has COVID been a really rough time for you, or have you been doing okay?
I've been trying to do okay. I mean, basically, COVID may stop me from performing live and things like that, but it's not going to stop me from, keeping life going in this business. And I do have plans on perhaps recording another AK-47 album one last time. I know it's been 17 years since Hadlock's Most Wanted was first put out, but in a way, I'm not shooting for big numbers. I'm not shooting for a contract from Clear Channel or iHeartRadio, considering they've already ignored me anyways. I mean, how is it that a person like me, who's been in this business for over 20 or almost 30 years, gets constantly thrown under the bus in favor of Justin Bieber, Taylor Swift, BTS, Kelly Clarkson? One Direction? Hello, did they not see talent up here, or did they fail to not realize that there's talent in rural areas if they decide to come up here and see us play? We don't get very much exposure up here like they do down in Seattle, and I think that hurts a lot of artists in our area around here. I mean, there's some great talent in this area, and there's a lot of great talent that came out of this area all these years.
So
most of them have either relocated or have disbanded because they failed to make it, and because they're up here.
So your goal is always to be world famous, not just local famous, but to move beyond that and to eclipse BTS and Bieber and Kiss. What's that station? Kiss 90...
102.7 Kiss FM, KIIS, Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, too, You may notice that somewhere along my Big HWTV YouTube channel, you may come across my famous or infamous radio station audition for KPTZ called Big HWW Live. I mean, what did you think of it?
I loved it, and honestly, it reminded me of all the radio I listened to growing up, and what I was always
exactly.
I was always really impressed just your transitions, and the style. The style for me, it was nostalgic, but it was also fun. I thought it was an excellent audition tape. And yeah, and
I'm kind of patting myself after the greats of my days: Robert W. Morgan, Charlie Van Dyke, the real Don Steele, Big Ron O'Brien, Rick Dees.
Yeah,
the old days of radio when radio was friendly, and that a friendly radio voice was always the best thing to have next to your bed on the radio and things like that.
Yeah, well, like Rush said, begin the day.
Night, you always had the radio back then. Today's radio just doesn't have it anymore.
Yeah, I don't even listen to the radio except to listen to KPTZ and listen to so I totally get it. But hey, while we have time for this, let's talk about you're making big moves this year in terms of plans for potentially running for office in Port Townsend. Is that still the case?
Yeah, I've been mulling over the idea of running for Port Townsend City Council. Yes, I have some brilliant ideas. Like I said, I've lived here since 1987, back when Port Townsend, the oriented town, and young people, working families were abundant, and there were stores here that catered to everybody, and everybody mattered, and everybody was respected equally, regardless of their age or whatever. And I just don't like the direction that Port Townsend and Jefferson County have been going in the last, shall we say, 20-plus years. I don't like it. I want to bring it back to the way it was.
What do you miss the most about the way it was?
Well, for one thing, being able to hit the bowling lanes locally around here is one, yes. And the roller skating rink, we had Hot Wheels roller skating rink. We had a video arcade in the top floor of the building, which now hosts Jim's Barbershop and pizza factory. That entire top floor was like pinball machines, video games, and a couple of other things, and a staff bar. I mean, there were lots of good hangouts around here, and even Hard Rock was a party town at that particular time too. It had its own specific little buzz, and Len Enders will give you that in the next hour. Obviously, he'll give you an idea of what it was like back then. He lived there all those years.
Yeah. So, and that is something that you feel by running for city council and potentially winning that you could help bring back this old Port Townsend.
I'd like the lobby to bring it back, yes. I mean, basically, it's like our young people and our working families see the writing on the wall that's been around for years, like they're not wanted here anymore. They're not wanted. And kids get so riled up by the time they turn 18 around and graduate from high school, it's adios. They feel like they're not wanted here. I mean, every high school graduation is lowered to nothing more than a mass exodus. That's what has happened. And they no longer stay here and things like that. I just don't like it. And part of the reason why is because of the evils of gentrification that are going on in our town. You know how much more expensive it is to live in this town? I mean, can you imagine what the minimum wage difference between here and Seattle? I mean, we pay the same amount as people in Seattle do with food prices, gas prices, taxes, and bills, but yet we make $3 less in minimum wage than people in Seattle do. I mean, you know, I'd like to make it, if I was elected to city council, one of my first moves was to make a $16 an hour minimum wage law inside city limits, because we pay the same amount. Why can't we get paid the same amount?
I mean, you're right about housing prices changing. When I moved here, it was so different. You know, you could rent a house, a big house, for $900 a month. And now that same house would rent for $2,000, $2,500 a month. I mean, that's a massive increase.
Yeah, it is. It is a massive increase. And with state minimum wage, you can't keep up with that. I mean, you know, and another thing, too, you know, part of it is because, you know, part of the gentrification process is because of all the influence of Californians coming up here. And these people, Paul, are not here to live here full-time and pay taxes like the rest of us. They are here only on a vacation for about a month or two, and they buy a home for that vacation home for a month or two. And then they scurry back down to California when the weather gets too cold for them. What happens to that house the last for all those other 10 months? I mean, I'm not going to allow that. My zero tolerance policy on second homes will make it illegal.
And that's, you know, something, second home policies are really something that I would love to see happen. But at the same time, it's something that we have to change at the state level. So if people are really interested in changing and being able to tax people in their second homes, and also to put an income tax down, which I think is almost essential to making Washington a more fair place to live, is that people should pay taxes on their income. We should get rid of all the other taxes, eliminate sales tax, eliminate fuel tax, eliminate all the other ones, and just have a 10.5% income tax. And that could level the playing field for so many people and put more money into state orgs that need it, and just generally stop punishing, you know, low income people for you know, because of the tax rate, for basically being, you know, in this position where they have to pay taxes on things, but they still can't earn enough money to really be able to afford to pay those taxes.
Myself being one of those low-income residents, I agree with you 100%. And here at Bishop Park Apartments, where I live at, here at BigHW.com, world headquarters, a lot of us are on a very limited income and, you know, very limited access to resources and things like that. They don't have the resources like they do in King County or Restohomish or Pierce or anything like that. I mean, you know, can you imagine everything you see on TV, none of it is available here? And the politicians around here won't allow any of it up here for some weird reason. I mean, I don't think that's right. I mean, we have, you know, back in my days, you know, it's like if one store here didn't have what you wanted, you could always go next door. Or you could go across the street, or down the street, or uptown, or downtown, or maybe in the outskirts, or, you know, somewhere out in Port Hadlock or Chimicum and things like that. There used to be plenty of stores for plenty of things to do. And these were stores for everyone, not just tourists and the retirees. I mean, imagine more people die in Jefferson County than are born here now these days. And it's sad. It really is.
But you're looking to do something about that.
We have the distinction of having the oldest population in the entire state, and that's not right. That is just it's not right. It's setting a very bad precedent for our young people and our working families.
Well, that's something that you'd like to do then, is if you were elected, you'd like to attract more young people, more young working people to Jefferson County.
That is correct, but we've got to give them the resources here. We've got to give them, we've got to allow businesses to come up here and be able to bring some of the things back that I mentioned earlier on that we used to have here. I mean, it's got to be fun to live in Jefferson County, not just to live and work. We got to make it fun to be in Jefferson County. We just don't have any of that anymore.
I hear you, brother. Well, hey, let's. We're going to have a little more time. We're going to go into the 2 o'clock hour. We're going to listen to one more song that you brought. You want to go ahead and introduce this one?
Yeah, It Ain't Over Till It's Over from Lenny Kravitz. I was listening to this on the in-store audio network over at my work. And, you know who you are. Yeah, but, I was listening to it on the PA system over at my work, and I used to mistake it for Earth, Wind, and Fire, and for 1974, That's the Way of the World. It sounds similar to it. I looked all over Spotify under Earth, Wind, and Fire for it and couldn't find it. I later on Googled it up and I found out it was Lenny Kravitz. It Ain't Over Till It's Over from 1991. But I made a mixtape of Earth, Wind, and Fire material. I wanted to make the second one. And the second one, I included this in it. And you would mistake the vocals on here for, of course, the late Maurice White and for Philip Bailey, both the singers on Earth, Wind, and Fire. I think everybody would like it. You wouldn't even know it was a Lenny Kravitz track until I told you it was Lenny Kravitz. You would think it was Earth, Wind, and Fire from 1974.
Well, let's rock it and find out, and we'll be back for some parting words from the Warrior. You're listening to KPTZ 91.9 FM, and yes, Lenny Kravitz, It Ain't Over Till It's Over. A shout-out to Sammy J. Watson for tuning in. Sammy, we hear you out there. We see your texts, and we know you're listening. We got Ray Jackson, Heavy Metal Warrior, AK-47, maybe future mayor of Port Townsend. Who knows?
Yeah, you never know. It might happen. It just might happen.
Well, either way, we know that we have not seen the last of Ray Jackson. We have not seen the last of the Big HM Dub. We have not seen the last of AK-47. Is that true?
That is correct. I do have plans on putting out another album, and who knows what might happen. But what I hear from some of the caregivers around here at Bishop Park with some of the tenants around here, that this pandemic might be around for quite a while, about 6 years perhaps, what I've heard. It really looks bad for my live career, but that's not going to affect me from doing anything else. I'm just going to live life my way. Live it my life my way.
Well, hey, in our last few minutes or seconds here, can you just give us a sum up of, tell the Warrior fans, tell the people, give them a message from you of hope and resilience in terms of getting through these difficult times in our lives.
Yeah, don't let it bother you guys. Just go for it. Cut it loose. You got to grab the bull by the you-know-what, if I could say what the you-know-whats are on the radio, but, you know what I mean. Just take life as it goes. Just grab it by the horn, so to speak, and, just go for it. Things like that. That's what I did. I mean, you can't let anything, you can't have a letdown in life now these days. I mean, if you have a letdown, you start to think negative, and everything goes to you-know-what when you think negative. It all goes right down the drain. You got to take positive out there, Just take it as it comes and do something with it.
Wise words.
By the way, during the pandemic we now have, with the pandemic that we have, I do agree, give you 6 feet and wear a mask, but if you're at home, stay at home, please, everybody, I mean, if you got a home stereo system, put something on it and listen to it. If you got a home theater system, put something on it and watch it. If you got a home arcade system, put something on it and play it. It's a lot safer being at home nowadays, just as long as you got a ton of food in your cabinets and a ton of good things and, entertainment. That'll keep you busy during this pandemic. No need to go outside too much because you don't want to be the next victim out there.
Thank you. Words of wisdom from AK-47, Ray Jackson. Hey, Ray, any final shout-outs to take us out?
I also want to give a big shout-out to all the fans out there in San Diego and L.A. and all my old classmates there. I mentioned Sydney Margolis. She's not the only one I went to high school with. I wanted to give some big shout-outs to Joey Alexander, Brad Kibbe, and Paul, Stan Smith, and a few other guys over my old days at Erickson Center. And I look forward to seeing them all, hopefully within a few years when we have that reunion, for all we know. Hopefully that reunion will happen. Maybe not. We'll find out.
It'll happen. It'll happen, Ray. And, hey, we'll be having you back on the show real soon, okay? This was great. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us.
No problem, Paul. Anytime you want, bro.
All right. We'll see you soon, Warrior.